Today on the channel, I'm not sure I'm ready for the comments on this video, but we're going to dissect, we're going to talk about, and we're going to break down the Haslab Rancor, the pros, the cons, the failure. Everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for a little something different today. Today on the channel, I'm putting my business hat on, and we're going to break down this Rancor fiasco. Yes, a fiasco, I said it. It's good, it's bad, it's ugly, it failed, unfortunately, and I'm going to talk about it using my business hat. As you guys know out there, I like to put the business hat on every once in a while. I like to relate these things to my own business world, dealing for a major company in major brands, in my opinion. Now, first off, I don't work for Hasbro. I've never worked for Hasbro, Mattel, or any of those guys, but a lot of things at the end of the day are the same. You could be selling hammers, you could be selling underwear, you could be selling food out there, you could be selling a lot of things. You could be selling Rancors. At the end of the day, a lot of the same business practices apply. It's all about profits, dollars, and cents. Don't forget the cents. In business sense as well, a different kind of sense. But there's a lot that goes into things like these, and I figured let's break it down. Let's break down the good, the bad, and the ugly with this. So first off, Haslab. We know all about the Haslabs. We've had the Sail Barge, we've had the Sentinel, we've had Transformers Unicron, so forth, so forth. Rancor was the Haslab, needed 9,000 backers to be funded. Price point, $349. So, okay. First off, I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit biased because I love a Rancor. I grew up with the original trilogy. Return of the Jedi was when I first really started remembering Star Wars movies. Yes, I was like 4 years old, but stuff like that sticks with you, and Monsters sticks with little kids. So I am biased. I wanted this Rancor no matter what because it is one of my favorite toys from my childhood, the original Kenner Rancor. And I guess I'm just going to have to make do with this Black Series Rancor from a few years back, the San Diego and I think Toys R Us exclusive at the time. So I got him here for moral support. But I got to tell you, I was in on the Rancor, and I understand a lot of people were not in on the Rancor. We talked about it in our weekly purchases video. Figured this video we could talk a little bit more about things and all things Rancor in this. But I loved it. I was here for it. I was a minute one backer. This is what I wanted out of a Haslab. Some of you guys out there, you did not want that, and that is understandable. Everybody doesn't have to agree on everything. I'm sure there's going to be some comments down below where people don't agree with stuff, and that is fine. I'm just going for my opinion, and that's what this is. But feel free to leave your guys' opinions down in the comments below. You guys know I love hearing from you. So first off, I wanted to put that out there. I love the Rancor. I thought it was a great idea. I personally did think this would fund, and with a few tweaks, I think it would have funded. I mean, we were about 400 short from this funding, and that is sad because that is super close, as you guys know. And we'll get more into this as we deep dive through some of these bullet points here, and we talk a little bit more about each one out there. But I personally did think this would fund from the get-go, and I also thought the Sky Striker would fund from the get-go. Well, I was half right, because the Sky Striker has funded with about a day to go. As you guys are watching this video, it has already funded, as I saw. So kudos G.I. Joe team, and I thought the G.I. Joe team would fund for sure, and I also thought the Rancor would, but G.I. Joe has not had a Haslab. This was their first go-around, first time we're getting this Air Striker. We've had more of these, we've had more Air Strikers in the past, but I figure as far as fan bases go and newness of it all, there's a lot of people that wanted in on the very first ever G.I. Joe Haslab. So I am not surprised that funded, but I thought this would have as well. And I think this would have if they wouldn't have took one detour, and we'll get into that here. But we'll start it off. Missteps in the tiers. I think that was the first issue out there. They misstepped and mismanaged what the tiers should have been with this one. From day one, the Rancor Keeper should have been included. They tried to do a Hail Mary pass at the end with about a week left, said, hey, we're throwing in the Rancor in a bag, gonna throw him in there. Now, I said it from day one that the Rancor Keeper was coming. It wasn't coming with the Haslab, but it would have been a traditional Black Series release timed with the Haslab. We've seen that before. We're going to see it again, I am sure. I have a feeling, we're going to get some of the Heralds when Galactus drops here in a year from now or so. That's the way Hasbro seems to want to do these things, and that's what they were going to do with the Rancor Keeper. But as a last-ditch Hail Mary, no carding, no nothing, let's throw the Rancor Keeper in there. If they would have put the Rancor Keeper in there from day one as part of the $9,000 package, which they really should have done, this would have funded. I guarantee this would have funded. We were only 400 backers away from this being funded. If they would have extended it, it would have funded, for sure. But let's talk about price point first. That's the big one. I think that's what got a lot of people from the word go. And I think a lot of people just don't understand. And that's not good or bad. Not everybody lives by the dollars and cents. You get your perception, and value is what you perceive it. And what I always say on the channel, we vote with our wallets at the end of the day. I don't care if you're buying food, you're going to a restaurant, you vote with your wallet what you want, what your perceived value is, what you think you can afford, and so on and so on. And a lot of people said, I'm out on this Rancor right away. But I think if you take that step back, this was a fair value. I don't know if it was a great value. It wasn't a terrible value, but I do think it is fair. And knowing inflation, everybody hates talking about it. I hate talking about it. I hate dealing with it every single day at work. I don't want to pay more for anything. I want to get a deal. Gotta get a deal. That's my motto on the channel. You guys should all try to get a deal. And a lot of people perceive this not to be a deal because their brain is still saying, hey, this is what something should cost. But as we know, in the fall, we've been talking on the channel for about a year. I've been saying fall 2021, inflation, things are going to go up in price. What happened? Everything did, because that is what I do for a living. I have to deal with this stuff, unfortunately. So I think a lot of people are still, to this day, living in old pricing pre-fall of 2021. They're having a hard time wrapping their head around new price points. We've seen Hasbro, Mattel, everybody go up in price. That's the new way of things, unfortunately. And I do think there's going to be a lot of shock after the holidays are over. People get credit card bills coming in January. As we know, January, February, slowest time of the year for retail as people are trying to get their funds back in their bank accounts from an expensive Christmas season. And it's going to be tougher than ever this year. And then guess what, guys? January, February 2022, round 2 of inflation is hitting. I don't know if it's going to hit the Hasbros, Mattels, but there is a ton of items that you buy every single day that are going to be going up in pricing again in early 2022. And guess what else? Christmas next year, 2022. How about summertime 2022? You're going to see more price increases planned for summertime 2022. I don't know the dates yet. Every company is going to be a little bit different, but you're going to see more price increases in the summertime of 2022. Why am I saying all this? Well, the Rancor is not coming out till December 2022. Most likely January, February 2023 was the plan for that. So think about that. How many price increases along the way were there? People saying 350 is crazy. Well, 350 by the time the Rancor ships to you is actually, you know, let's call it $300 or whatever the number is of old time thinking. That is the thing. I think the perceived value there and the cost and inflation and all that. Well, and then, so that's a big part. That's a big part of it that I think people aren't thinking about. You know, hey, this goes into production. This hasn't been made yet. They still got to design and get all the final tweaks done and then get the plastics and all that and the shipping and all that kind of stuff. That makes our things cost a heck of a lot more. And that is a big piece of this price point out there. That being said, I do think if they would have the Rancor Keeper along for the ride from the get-go, I think people would have swallowed it and it would have been funded. But I guess we'll never know at this point. But that was a big part of it. So then you take all this inflation. That's what is telling me, hey, 350 is about right. But you also got to remember, guess what? This is a big box, a big package. You're getting free shipping in this. We know shipping prices have went up across the board. So that is baked into this as well. So you got to remember free shipping. How much do you think it's going to cost? 50 bucks to ship this thing? Obviously, Hasbro gets deals out there because they're shipping so many of stuff. But it's still a pricey big item to ship. So you got to put that in there as well. And then the inflation cost, all that, 2023 ship date, all that. Pricing of shipping going to go sky high probably by then. I don't know if you can lock in your shipping rates a year before. I don't know. Maybe a shipping company guy could tell me that. But there's a lot of that going on there. But then you hear people say, hey, Mythic Legions. And I'm not picking on Mythic Legions. I'm all for Mythic Legions. More Mythic Legions, the better. But people are saying, look, they do these big ogre figures for $100, $120, whatever. How come the Rancor is this price? Well, the Rancor is a lot bigger than those. Wider, more articulation, more paint, decor stuff. Mythic Legions, amazing figures. Those big troll figures, stuff like that. Amazing. But, you know, people don't take that business step back. They see Mythic Legions and say, how can they do that for half the price? There's no way. The money, it doesn't make sense what Hasbro's doing. Well, guess what? Here's the dirty secret of Hasbro out there. I don't know if it's a secret, but I'm going to break this down. Hasbro has many masters to serve, for lack of better terms out there. You know what? It's not cheap to get that Star Wars license. You have to work with Star Wars. It costs money to make money. Guess what? Mythic Legions, the Four Horsemen, I guarantee you, Four Horsemen have a heck of a smaller team, design team, manufacturer team. It's way smaller scale than Hasbro as a whole. Hasbro's got those stockholders. They got to answer to those stockholders. They've got the Star Wars license, which is extremely expensive. Overhead, they got tons of it. How many employees does Hasbro have compared to Mythic Legions? How many buildings, properties, all that kind of stuff does Hasbro have compared to Mythic Legions? How many employees? I think I've already said that. But employees. Hasbro is a massive, massive machine. It is a big machine. With that comes tons of money, but you also have no idea what their business model is. Is Hasbro hoping to have a 25% return? 10% return? What's Mythic Legions looking for? Maybe Mythic Legions doesn't have to have as big of a return because they don't have stockholders. They don't have buildings they're paying for, all that kind of stuff. So you can't really say Hasbro's taking advantage and stuff like that, or Mythic Legions is, because you don't know their business practices, their business models. But I can tell from working for major companies in my career, you think they're making all this money, but man, there's so much going on. 401ks, maybe company cars. There's things like that that have to be paid. That money's got to come from somewhere, and it comes from things like this. Mythic Legions, are they giving company cars to people? Do they have huge buildings? I don't know, but I'm guessing nothing in the scale of Hasbro. I think that's a fair assessment. So when you're breaking down pricing of anything, you could be breaking down the pricing of M&Ms. Why aren't they cheaper? Well, there's this reason, there's that reason. You always got to take that step back, and just because it almost goes back to the old days where somebody makes a fortune. Say somebody makes a bunch of money, another person doesn't make as much, but then they have a fancier car and stuff. It depends how the people live out there, and it's how these companies live as well. But I can tell you the Star Wars license has a lot more cost to it than the Mythic Legions. They don't have to answer to anybody. They're just creating these properties here, which is awesome. They can do that. Hasbro, they got to get approval from the Star Wars team, Lucasfilm, all that stuff to do the Rancor. Does it pass that? And guess what? People are working. People are reviewing stuff. They're taking emails back and forth. People don't work for free. I wish they would sometimes. I work way too much for free, and I'm sure some of you guys do as well. You shouldn't do it. Pro tip, don't work for free. But every time those emails go back and forth, that's time. That is hours. And there's so many more people involved in Hasbro than Mythic Legion. So that's a crude way of breaking things down. You could go real deep into all of that, but it's not apples to apples with these companies. And you think these companies are making tons of money. They're not making as much as you think they are. And then they got to pay lighting and overhead and all that and construction and safety things. I mean, there's so much that goes into these big companies out there. So to me, all that plus inflation, what's going on, knowing you're getting the Star Wars license, that $350 is a lot fairer than it seems on paper. Definitely to me, but not to the majority of people. At the end of the day, people vote with their wallet. People not understanding that, nor should they have to understand all that. I'm not saying you should know everybody's business and all that kind of stuff. But perceived value is a real thing. And at this time, because of all the inflation and everything else going on in the world, people perceived it not to be a value. The other thing we got to talk about with this Haslab, another reason I think it failed, is too much at one time. We did one of these videos for the Mattel New Generation Ring back July, August timeframe. Go look at that video if you're interested in more business talk. A lot of great points I felt I brought up in that, and I think I have great points in this one as well. I don't know. I'm sure somebody's going to disagree with me out there. But we talked a lot about that, a little of the business stuff, and timing. Timing is everything. That New Generation Ring launched in July, San Diego Comic-Con time. A lot of people are spending money on Ninja Turtles and other properties with all these exclusives. It was a terrible time to launch. You know what is even a worse time to launch? The holidays, January, February. I would do everything if I'm doing one of these things, if I'm Mattel or anybody else, I'm not doing Kickstarters in November, December, January, February. People already have a lot of stuff to buy for the holidays, getting ready, traveling, all that kind of stuff. Their money is tied up, especially on something that isn't coming for a year at best. People have their money tied up. Then January, February, historically very slow time at retail, because guess what? People spent too much money during the holidays, or they spent a bunch of money on credit cards, whatever. They got to pay those off January, February. They're not buying a lot of stuff in January, February. New Generation Ring should have launched around WrestleMania, March, April timeframe. That is when wrestling is at its zenith for the year historically. WrestleMania is a big deal for everybody. It's the Super Bowl of wrestling. More eyes on the product than ever. That's when you launch a crowdfunding wrestling item. Star Wars, Transformers, Ghostbusters, whoever, you launch it somewhere else. You launch it in a better sweet spot. Stay away from San Diego Comic-Con. Stay away from those 4 months I was talking about. Put it in there and spread them out. And I felt like Hasbro a little bit got greedy, and that's what happens when you get big companies out there. The left arm doesn't always know what the right arm is doing. We want to believe the Marvel Legends team is talking to Star Wars and they're sharing ideas all the time, but it's crazy. These companies don't talk, and they're in their own silos. They're in their own worlds, and that's a problem in business in general. People get in silos. They forget about the common man, the old dusty roads out there. They forget about the common man. They forget what's going on day to day, store by store, and that's where things get dangerous if you're in business. If you totally forget what goes on out there in real world retail. It's really great to sit in a big tower in a big office, but man, don't forget where you came from, and that's a big one. And I think the Hasbro team forgot that, and they weren't talking to each other, left and right hands. How could you possibly have an Air Striker, a Rancor, and a Ghostbuster pack all at the same time? Now, the Ghostbuster pack, I give them the pass, and they funded really quick. Well, guess why they funded really quick? Hype around the movie. People have been setting that fire for that movie for so long. People saw the movie, they fell in love with it, they started picking stuff up. Ghostbuster nostalgia running wild. Guess what? 6 months from now, there's going to be a lot of hot deals on Ghostbuster stuff because people are buying because they were caught up in the hecticness of the movie, and they're going to sell off some of that collection. That's the way things go in collecting. And we're going to see that with Ghostbusters. But that thing funded, and it was cheaper than the Rancor. The price point was perceived good. It was perceived right. It's not for me, but not everything is for me. And some of you guys probably backed it, and kudos to you. And I am happy for you. You got what you wanted. I didn't get my Rancor. But that works. And it was also around the Halloween time frame. I mean, it's the spooky seasons, Cape season, if you're Lando Calrissian out there. It was the perfect time for that. And I felt that made sense. Maybe throw the Air Striker in there, and the Air Striker, I could do a video on that. I won't. It has funded. Congratulations. It was not for me, even though G.I. Joe is my passion. I don't need another G.I. Joe line to collect, unfortunately, the O-rings. I got to call it out somewhere. But I think that was okay because 2 at once is okay. Not everybody buys everything, but when you've got 3 properties at the same time that cross over, there's people like me that collect all 3 varieties of things. There's people that collect 2. They have to pick and choose which one they want the most. That is difficult. Most people out there can't back all 3, so you're already splitting out your people. If Hasbro was smart, they'd say, okay, we're going to do Transformers in this 3 months. We're going to do G.I. Joe this 3 months. We're going to do Ghostbusters these 3 months. We're going to do Star Wars these 3 months. Something to that effect. Don't pile on top of each other. That's business 101. You're competing with yourself at that point. And nobody wins when you compete with yourself. If the Air Striker was by itself, Ghostbuster pack was by itself, you might even have more backers than you got because there wasn't the Rancor guy buying the Rancor and so forth. So spread it out. I mean, that's business 101. That is, I hope, one of the big learnings Hasbro takes from all this. And then don't do it around the Christmas season. That doesn't make any sense. So that is a big one. So here's the other big thing here. And now the Rancor Keeper was a Hail Mary, and that was a bad business move in my opinion because it is nice that they listen to the fans, so that is one good thing. But then it makes the precedent for any other Haslabs. I don't care what we're talking about. Now the internet community, the vocal minority, honestly, you got to take that step back. The vocal minority out there, they are dictating what needs to be given and dictating perceived value. Now, it was a very ballsy move by the Hasbro team to throw the Rancor in there, but now I think a lot of vocal collectors out there, vocal toy figure community people, they're going to be saying, hey, let's hold tight and let's try to, negotiate another figure. So they're setting that precedent. They did it before. Maybe they'll do it again, which leads into a lot of people expecting an extension for the Rancor. And I truly believe if you gave the Rancor a day or a week extension, it would definitely hit 400. It would hit. The hype train got going. Now that we got the Rancor Keeper, some things have been forgiven. Things got going at that point. But Hasbro had to do the right thing, and as much as I hate it because I wanted the Rancor, you guys know this, they had to say, hey, it's done, it didn't fund, it's done. With no fund, it's done. That being said, you're going to get that Luke eventually. There's no way they're just not releasing that Luke. The Rancor Keeper, he's coming eventually. It's going to happen. The Gamorrean Guard, he's been out there. You're just not getting one on that card back, which I don't know if anybody really cares that much about that. The bones and the cardboard backing, that's the thing you truly are outside the Rancor, and it is what it is. But an extension, I think it would have it would have succeeded. But then they said, hey, we gave too many cards up given the Rancor Keeper, we're not going to give the extension. And I think that was the smart move as a business, because then once again you're setting that precedent. There has to be a time limit. There has to be a time limit on stuff. You can't just keep pushing the needle out there, because people don't take you seriously in these Haslabs. So they did the right thing. As much as I hate it, they did do that. And once again, if they would have given the Rancor Keeper from the start, I think we would have funded. We would have got to 9,000. I think some of those stretch goals were awfully lofty, especially for what they were. That was another big mistake, is I don't think they were in tune with the collectors community. And I said that about the Mattel ring a little bit. I don't know, you could talk to influencers, you could talk to people, and I'm not saying talk to me, but hey, they know how to find me if they wanted to. But you got to be in with the people that hunt in the stores, that are in the stores, that understand what the community wants. That's who you have to talk to. And I don't know if Star Wars team did that with anybody. Obviously, I do a daily Star Wars video, but I don't know if they talked to any Star Wars influencers or any people in that community and took their temperature. And every company should do that. I do that repeatedly, be it friends, family out there. When I'm launching a new item, I take temperature, I get feedback, and I don't know if they did that with the Rancor. I think they got ego-driven. And I gotta tell you, business is a very ego-centric community out there. I've had new items that I believed in 100%, that I pushed, and I did everything in my power to make successful, but guess what? People in the stores, they voted with their wallet. They said they didn't want it. And that is a blast to an ego of a salesman out there, somebody that, product development, new items that you think are just the greatest thing since sliced bread. Hey, it fails, man, it sucks. But you take your learnings, and we say it on the channel all the time, constant learning, constant improvements, and that's what you do. You pick yourself up, you try for the next thing. And I hope the Hasbro team does that, because there are very, very big egos in that room. If you're lying if you say there isn't in any of them. I mean, I love the Marvel Legends guys. Those guys are great, but they have to have an ego. That's how you get to where you get in business. You have to have a little bit of that ego. You have to have a little pride. You got to wear that stuff on your sleeves. Sometimes that's a bad thing, because, like I said earlier, you forget the plight of the common man and what the common man's looking for out there. And I truly think the Star Wars Black Series Hasbro Haslab team totally missed the boat on that. I don't think they were in tune with the community. Their egos were so big, they thought they could just throw anything out there and it would stick, because, hey, it's Star Wars. Everybody will buy Star Wars. That's just the way it goes. That's not the case, and that's what the community told them. I hope they take those learnings back. We did see an announcement from them saying, hey, that's, we're trying to bring you. They did the marketing spin control. They got the HR involved, all that kind of stuff. And I thought they had a pretty good message out there. We'll just see what happens in the future. And for me, the future is a little bit murky. Here's the thing I'm worried about with this, and this is just me spitballing here. I am worried that their ego might be so big. I'm not calling anybody out, but let's say their ego's pretty big. They felt that, we gave them a golden opportunity. They didn't want it, so guess what? They're not getting anything. And I think this could possibly hurt us for the original trilogy figures. I could see them saying in there, well, this failed because people wanted more recent Star Wars. They want Bad Batch. They want Mandalorian. They want the Clone Wars. They want stuff that's more recent than the original trilogy. Original trilogy, that's, old school stuff. That's old people stuff. People have moved on from that. They don't want that anywhere. I'm worried Hasbro's thinking that, and it's going to affect future purchases or future product from Hasbro. They might say, hey, we got Bib Fortuna coming out, and that's it. That's the last one from Return of the Jedi or New Hope or Empire. People don't want that anymore. They told us that with that Rancor. They don't want the original trilogy stuff. Let's get them more Mandalorian stuff. That is my huge concern out of all this. I think this sends a message that original trilogy used to be the bread and butter. People have moved on. Tastes change. People grow up. People grow out. There's the new generation that wants Bad Batch. They want Mandalorian. They want other things like that. That is a huge concern and huge worry from where I sit, which, as you guys all know, is right here at this table. That's where I sit. So that is one of those things out there that's very interesting. So we'll see where that all shakes out for. Just very, very interesting times with the Rancor. And looking at my notes here, I thought I'd see if I have anything else. I just had a few things to hit on, and I think I hit on all of them. So very, very interesting times. Want to do a little bit of informal kind of business hat video here for you guys with some of my thoughts and some of the things I saw with this campaign out there. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions out there. And I always say it, in business, here's one of the things. If you have a complaint, what is your solution? So you can come to me all day long. You can come to Kyle's desk and say, here's my complaint. complaint, here's my complaint, here's my complaint. Hey, great, I'm glad you got complaints, but what are your solutions? So for every complaint you have, you should give me 2 solutions. I mean, that's what you need to do in business. It's fun to complain. It's easy. Oh, this didn't work, whatever. What would you do different? And you got to be realistic. You can't say, well, I would have sold it for $50. That's just not realistic. So I think I brought up some things they could have done differently that would have made this a success. You just can't say it's overpriced and just brush it off that easy unless you dig deep into these things. And do you have Hasbro's books? I don't have them. But I know from being with a major company how this kind of all operates and snowballs from there. So a lot to unpack here. I understand it out there, but feel free. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I mean, just don't say, hey, it should have been $50, because that's just not going to work. And you got to have, if you got complaints, give me your solutions, what you would have done differently. I mean, let's do this like a business talk, but I know this video won't be for everybody, especially the Star Wars fan base, very, very vocal. But I think no matter what fan base, if we're talking Marvel Legends, we're talking wrestling, we're talking Star Wars, we don't all take that business step back. We don't put on that business hat and kind of think to what is the true answer here? What is the true end game here? And we got to do that more often, I think, as a fan community, as a toy collecting community. But yeah, so there you go. That's my thoughts. You give me yours down in the comments below. Whether you like it or don't, at least like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We got Star Wars videos every single day in 2021 for you Star Wars people that are maybe new here. And we're unboxing everything on the channel. We got a little bit of everything for everyone. So I'd love to see if you guys would subscribe out there, hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media, SirPaul64 on Twitter, Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. And of course, ProWrestlingTees.com. Support the channel, search Kyle Peterson. So for Rancor Madness, I'm just going to have to live with my baby Rancor. For now, I am Kyle. See you guys all real soon.